Okay. Yeah, come on down. Make yourself at home. Right. Okay. My name's Alan Malloy, and this is the second of the Monday nights since the COVID lockdowns and everything finished. So it's pretty special, and yeah, a lovely experience. A lovely experience to be with people again, and after so long of being separate. And I'm sure you've all had a lot of experiences that have moulded you, I think we'd say. Yeah, moulded you or changed you in some way or other. I hope some of those experiences have been positive, but I'm sure, like for many of us, a lot of those experiences have been, they use the word challenging, which I think is really a cop-out as a word that means it really sucked and it was bloody awful, really. When politicians say this is challenging and it's unprecedented, I just want to scream and say, no, this is ruining people's lives, their mental health and everything. So please, don't underestimate it. It really, really hurt, and it's really hurt a lot of people. I hope you're okay. I really hope you're okay. And the fact that you're here means, I don't know what it means actually. Maybe it means you're looking for something, a different way of approaching things. Because we've certainly all watched enough Netflix for a lifetime. We've watched enough Foxtel and other streaming medias. We've watched enough of we probably don't need to do any more of that in this life. We probably don't really. Well, we've had enough. And then we ask ourselves, well, what did that really do? It passed the time. And that's what it did. But did it actually fulfill any deeper needs or any deeper hollownesses or emptinesses in our hearts? Did it really fulfill that? Fulfill those deeper yearnings? And I think we can probably say it doesn't. But it did occupy time, which helps. That helps you get through stuff. But by coming here tonight, I presume you're looking for something different, because this is a Buddhist place. I'm a Buddhist. We're Buddhists. That's the Buddha. And then these other pictures here are pictures of different sorts of Buddhas. Female Buddhas, Tara, Chenrezig, others. So there are many sorts of Buddhas. The historical Buddha lived about 2,500 years ago. And then we believe even now that in this world there are living Buddhas, because the nature of the Buddha's compassion is to keep helping living beings until the end of existence, through the end of existence. And so we're living beings, we're in trouble, so therefore the Buddha will keep manifesting and provide us assistance in one way or another. And that's what Buddhism is. It's about assisting people. But we're not like the SES. We don't go out with chainsaws and cut down sort of trees that have fallen down or extinguish fires or go to war or even things like that. No. Our philosophy is an internal fight. So it's an internal war. We are doing battle with the internal emotions and thoughts and attitudes we have that are as destructive as war, as are destructive as tsunamis, as are destructive as floods and fires and famines. And indeed they are, we believe, like in our understanding, the cause of those things. When we really look at war and even what's happening in the Ukraine at the moment, we'd have to say, so what is the cause of that? The cause of that isn't the tanks, it's not the soldiers, it's not the bombs. It's being driven by the thoughts of a human being, in particular in this case one human being, it seems. So that's the power of the negative thought. It can lead whole countries to despair and destruction. And that's the power of the negative thought. And the Buddha understood that, because in that sense we're saying that what is the cause of all happiness and what is the cause of all suffering? It's thought. It's a thought. It's the attitudes we have and the way we understand reality and the way we understand others, how we understand ourselves, at both a coarse level and a very deep and subtle level. So of the two causes of happiness and suffering, because really when we look at it, what is the common goal of all living beings? And that is to be happy and to avoid suffering. To be happy and to avoid suffering is a common... If we had to say, what is the same thing about all human beings? We would say that the same attitude is they want to be happy and they want to avoid suffering. And the slightest bit of suffering, we don't want to endure, and we want every bit of happiness. We actually have an insatiable desire or insatiable wish for happiness, but at least we want the basic things. We want to be secure. We want to have food. We want our friends, our family to be secure, etc. So those basic sort of things. We want freedom. They're the basic sort of things. But on a very deep level, then there are other sorts of happiness. But really, if we said, what's the similarity between all living beings? Is all want happiness and all want to avoid suffering. And then we do the myriads of activities, and there's infinite activities to achieve those simple goals. And when we can either do them as external activities or internal. And external activities are, shopping centres. Go to Chadstone, go to Southland and spend. That will bring you happiness. That's what we're told. And if you do that, you get a little bit of happiness, and then you get the thing home and you start using it and it's not as good as you thought, and it gets scuffed or it gets broken, or somebody criticises it, and suddenly that thing you spent a lot of time, effort and money getting doesn't bring you the happiness that it once did when you got it. So that's the problem with external things. We have sort of expectations that they'll fulfill something, and they don't. They don't fulfill. They're because we have an insatiability. That's one of the aspects of existence here, is that an insatiability. Everything's insatiable. We can never have enough. There can be never enough of that yearning satiated. So that's one of the problems with just focusing on external things. And by that I said just. If that's the totality of what we believe will bring us happiness, then we're going to be in trouble. And similarly, if we think about, getting rid of all the problems and people and issues that cause me to be unhappy or to cause grief to me or my friends or something, if we could just go out there and stop all those people who disagree with me and all those people who find me obnoxious, and get rid of all those people who are the wrong colour or the wrong religion or the wrong belief, if only we get rid of all of them, and also get rid of the sun that's too hot or the wind that's too cold and the ground that's too rough, if only we could get rid of all that, and the traffic that's too noisy, or the traffic, that's too silent, and we don't want it to be too silent. If we could only get rid of all that, we would have removed all the causes of our suffering. And we can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. It's impossible. We try, and we've been trying as human beings for hundreds of thousands of years, and we'll probably say we failed. But the external causes of suffering and the external causes of happiness are not it. They're not the root cause. The root cause is the internal causes. Which is why you're here, I presume. Because as Buddhists, we're not going to give you anything. We're not even going to give you a cup of tea tonight because of COVID. So you get nothing. You get zilch from being here. The only thing you're going to get is some words and maybe a little bit of understanding of the nature of the mind, and then an internal experience which derives from meditation. So those three things, hearing words, contemplating, and then meditating, that's the only thing we're going to give you as Buddhists, as Buddhist practitioners, as the Buddhist path. That's all, nothing else. So with that, we'll talk a little bit about meditation, because that is the tool we use. Maybe just a little bit. I hate lecturing, and I don't think these should be lectures, because I don't think I'm very good at it. B, I don't think I've got much to share, and I feel a bit embarrassed because I think there are people in this room who've got a lot more experiences than me, and a very rich life. So, stop me talking by putting me out of my misery and asking me questions, or putting everyone out of their misery by asking questions and doing things and sharing something, because these are not lectures. This is not a classroom and a teacher. This is a bunch of equals who are here to share something, especially after we've all been through something very difficult. Okay, so now, before we start meditating, who has never meditated before? Good. Oh, excellent. Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay. Who's never been here before? Maybe that's another question. 1, 2. Okay, a few people. Good. Okay. Okay. Well, meditation has many different connotations. People think of a lot of esoteric things, and there is esoteric meditation. But what we're going to do is just but what meditation means, the Tibetan word for meditation is gom, which means to become familiar. So with meditation, all we're doing is becoming familiar with something positive or something virtuous, a virtuous, positive mind, as opposed to doing stuff that we normally do, which makes us familiar with negative minds or non-virtuous minds. Now, this is tricky. And we can go into what is virtuous, non-virtuous, negative, positive, and that is a huge field. But let's just suffice to say that we're just going to do something really simple, which just stills and calms the mind initially in the first meditation, and then later on, after we've done that, we're going to talk about some of the mental health issues that COVID brought up for people, and then what tools that Buddhist philosophy has to deal with some of those mental health issues. Like last week we dealt with anxiety. Well, what tools does meditation have for helping with terrible anxiety that a lot of people have experienced over COVID? Tonight we're going to focus on the second sort of topic, which is just something called loneliness. What is loneliness? What does Buddhist meditation have, a tool that Buddhist meditation have to help us deal with loneliness? And that's not only loneliness due to COVID, but it was extreme in COVID. But how do what does Buddhism have to offer? We're all going to get lonely at some stage in our life. So that, and then the third topic was going to be with depression. So what does Buddhist philosophy have to offer in terms of our understanding depression? Because I thought that I attended a conference during COVID, and these very esteemed psychologists, psychiatrists, paediatricians were talking about the mental health issues in families during COVID, and then they were the three they synthesised down to. There was anxiety, loneliness and depression were the three most pervasive mental health issues that COVID seemed to bring out. And especially in young people, I think, younger people especially, suffered tremendously. So what does Buddhism have to offer? Hopefully we can explore that together. So now we're just going to do simple meditation on the breathing. The reason why we do the breathing meditation is because it's simple, it's easy, it's cheap, you don't have to pay anybody to do it, and you can keep doing it until you stop breathing, because, well, then you don't need to do it anymore, I suppose, but then it's you don't have to have a Tibetan singing bowl, or you don't need to have a candle, or you don't need to have anything. It's breathing is natural. It also has a natural, because breathing goes in and out, it has a natural rhythm, which is really nice. Whereas to just focus on something without a rhythm is actually quite hard. For example, in Dzogchen we meditate just on the nature of the mind, that clear, spacious, knowing nature of the mind. That's very hard, very hard. But in breathing meditation, it's just that flowing in and out of the breath. It's really simple and easy, and it stills the mind, so that then we become more receptive. Because when the mind is very agitated, it can't learn. Stuff can't get in. So we have to still the mind a little bit. So we're just going to do this for 10 minutes. Really simple. Just focus on the breathing. Some people focus on the air at the nostrils. Some focus on the rise and fall of the stomach. We tend to breathe through the stomach rather than through the chest. We breathe sort of here. Breathe through the nose rather than the mouth. It's more natural. And but don't try to change the rhythm of your breathing. We're not holding the breath or anything. So we're just going to do this for 10 minutes. Just a simple breathing meditation. And then that will just calm the mind. Okay? So just 10 minutes of simple breathing meditation. Okay, just slowly cease the meditation as you're comfortable. People often ask, what happiness is, and there's, we naturally think happiness is possession of things, etc., external things, but probably a lot of happiness just comes from having a mind that's still a peaceful mind, and that's what we try to do in meditation. So, okay, I'm going to stop here for a second. Now it's your turn to contribute. Anyone got any comments about what happened to them in COVID? Issues, experiences, things they'd like to explore in a meditative sort of way? Yeah, hi.
I was just wondering, because I noticed during lockdown, someone who's quite anxious.
Yeah.
And then I found that made me anxious also.
Oh, yes.
I'm like,
Yeah.
So I was wondering, do you have any techniques for not absorbing everyone's stuff?
Sure. Okay, so do we have any techniques for not absorbing everyone else's stuff? That's a very good. Like for example, you're bringing the illustration. If you're living with somebody who's very anxious, then you become anxious. Then how do you stop that? It's really good. That's a very good. What did you do? You tell me. You're smarter. You're a smart person. Yeah.
I tried to not be physically too close to them.
To not be physically too close.
I did meditate.
Good.
Online classes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, did that, and I did online dancing.
Oh, good. Okay, so online meditation, online dancing, so something internal and something external. Yeah, good.
Yeah, just try to focus in on my own body rather than focusing
Sure. Okay, so good. I think, the sort of things you said, they were great. Physical distancing is very good. Meditating, absolutely, and then doing some physical exercises, especially things that brings you happiness. Like dancing, very joyful. Yeah, that's excellent. I have nothing better to add, really. I would say meditate, distance from yourself and distance from them, especially if it's very destructive. If anxiety or some of these mental health issues become out of control, it might even become dangerous being with somebody, or dangerous for you too if it's affecting you. So, perfect. Yeah, as I said, you're smarter than me. So yeah, I'm very interested. Anybody else? Any other comments? Okay, because in terms of what we can do, and I think what you've said. What was your name, by the way? Naomi. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. In terms of the emotional reactions people had during COVID, but these are not just due to COVID. It's life in general. Anxiety was really common. The second one, and we did speak a bit about that last week, and just talking about some of the meditative techniques. And I think one that we spoke about was when the anxieties are sort of just so overwhelming. There's probably not a lot we can do at that stage, except sometimes just wait for that karmic seed to ripen and to finish, but to keep yourself safe and try to keep the other person safe, and to be kind. That's it. Without sacrificing yourself to them, but sometimes karma, once it's ripened, is very forceful, and sometimes we just have to wait till it finishes its energy. Now, when we spoke about loneliness as the second thing, as one of the other things which we all experience, and we all experience not only in COVID but other times, I suppose it made me think, well, what is loneliness? And loneliness, to my mind, and everyone will have their own understanding of it, is a lack of connectedness. You don't feel connected to people. It's like you and others have been cut off, and you're separate. You don't have a connection with other people. And that's interesting because it doesn't mean you're alone. I mean, you might be in the midst of a throng of people, but still, without connection, then we feel alone. We feel lonely. We feel lonely. Not alone, we feel lonely. And partly it's because we think that what will fill that void of a lack of connectedness, if somebody shows us from their side, gives us that connection. Yeah. So if they would only love me, if they would only be kind to me, if they would only reach out, if they would only be part of my life, if they would only engage with me, if only they would take on my suffering so that I didn't have to experience it, then I would be happy. Then I wouldn't be lonely. And that's part of what loneliness craves for, is that, I mean, human affection, be understood, to be validated, what you experience, all those sort of things. Now, it's good, it's fantastic, it's totally normal to want this, and it's not to invalidate or anything, but one of the problems is we're expecting somebody else to reach out to us. That's sort of the problem with loneliness, where we want someone else to do something for us. Won't you be my friend? Won't you call me? Why don't you call me? Why don't you spend time with me? Why don't you do this? Why don't you show me love? Why don't you show me affection? Okay, all that sort of stuff. And when we don't get that, it's incredible, it's heart-wrenching. It almost makes you physically sick, that feeling of abandonment and people not caring. It's an awful sort of feeling. And I'm sure many of you felt. I had one woman during the pandemic, she came to see me, and she described how she'd spent the whole weekend under a table in her kitchen crying, just curled up under a table in her kitchen crying the whole weekend. And then she came to see me and wanted some help. Okay, so we tried to help. But and I mean that was so heart-wrenching to hear that level of loneliness and despair, and to feel that no one is out there. Now, that's really desperate. Okay, that's really desperate. And when someone's in that situation, I mean, you really are looking at, preventing harm, like suicide, self-harm, etc. So, but for the rest of us, if we can intervene or have a tool to bring connection, to bring connectedness, to connect with people on a very deep level, over which we have control, I have control, you have control. That's what we're trying to do in Buddhism. We're trying to say, okay, the world out there is unpredictable. The world out there has changes, and it's insatiable, and it has the nature of dissatisfaction. So we will never find the solution to all our needs and wants if we just rely on that. So what inner tools can we do? Can we develop? In this case, to bring connection. Now there is one. Well, there's lots. No, there's not just one. There's 1,000. There's a million. There's a million. But the one I'd like to think about today, and particularly, it's challenging. Buddhism is not easy. It's not. It's to challenge things, challenge our perception. So instead of, imagine if we could connect with people on a very deep, intimate level from one's own side by merely developing an emotion, an attitude such as love from our side. Because we want love. I mean, when someone says we want love, what they're actually saying is, I want you to love me. I want you to be affectionate to me. I want you to care for me. Okay, let's transform that around. Let's say, I want love. Okay, I want love. That is a mind. That is the mind that wishes other living beings to be happy. Okay, I will generate that mind of affection and fulfill my need for connectedness by generating love. Completely transforms it. It's shocking because it goes against our normal want and need and everything we've been told from beginningless time, that others are the source of our happiness. But in this case, with loneliness, if we just develop love, then what happens? Then suddenly we're connected to people. We're connected to living beings. And but first of all we need to understand a little bit what love is. Love isn't the romantic love that's the love song, which is sort of like lust and need and dependency and desire and sexual or some other manipulative desire. It's not that. Love is, in Buddhist terms, we call love as mean the mind that wishes others to be happy, the mind that wishes other living beings to be happy. Now we can also have love for ourselves, because we don't want ourselves to be unhappy too. So we can love ourselves, love others, but in this case we're just focusing on loving others. Now we need a technique to do that, and the wonderful thing about Buddhist philosophy is we have meditative techniques to develop love, we have meditative techniques to develop compassion, we have meditative techniques to develop patience, joy, wisdom. We have all those meditative techniques. So tonight what we're going to do a little one, and we'll explain it. It has 3 steps or 4 steps. We'll see how we go, whether we go to the 4th step or we just do 3. But anyhow, so the first is what is love? Okay, love is the wish for others to be happy. So that's the end result of this meditation, to have a stable mind of affection to others and wanting to be happy. So how do we do that? Well, the first step is, as we've already mentioned tonight, we're all the same. Every living being is the same in wanting happiness and to avoid suffering. So that is my wish, that's your wish, your wish, your wish, your wish, your wish, all of our wishes. So there's no difference between ourselves and others. So in that case, we just have to realise that, understand that there's no difference. We're all the same in that basic want and need. Whatever colour we are, whatever religion, whatever race, whatever educational background, socio-economic, demographic we have, we're all the same. There's no difference. So that's it. That's the first step. So we meditate on that and develop an equalising. So we're going to, well, this is called what's equalising oneself. We equalise oneself and all other living beings. So there's no difference between ourselves and others. The second step is to meditate on the great kindness of others, in the sense that we're all dependent. So dependency on others. And from this we develop gratitude. So everything we do, every experience we have in life, every happy experience we have, even things we disregard. Okay, the air conditioning's going tonight. It's noisy, sorry about that. But it's going tonight. How did that air conditioning come from? Well, somebody came in the room and turned it on. Somebody paid for the bills, somebody serviced it, somebody built it, somebody worked really hard, and now we've got air conditioning. We've got lights on in the building. How did the lights come on? Once again, somebody paid for it, somebody turned it on, somebody in an electricity company made sure that all the switches were on, and so on and so. Someone got out of bed to do that. Someone got out of bed when they were sick and really wanted to be in bed to make sure the lights were on. The water in this cup that I'm drinking from, it came from all sorts of living beings. And living beings died to get me this water, because living beings are in water, they sterilise the water. So living beings died just so that I could have some water. So we just think, if we just go out on a really planetary level of our interconnectedness with people, and how everything we experience, every happiness we experience, is due to the kindness and sacrifice of others. Even if people are doing a job, even if they're getting paid for it, even if they have to do it, if the benefit for us is beneficial, if the effect on us is beneficial, then it's still a good thing. It's still a good thing, even if they're paid to do it. So a doctor who gets paid to cure you, yeah, they're doing a good thing. A teacher who gets paid to teach you is doing a good thing. A parent who doesn't get paid and does maybe a good job, maybe an absolutely terrible job at being a parent, they're still a parent. They're still a parent. We all came from a womb, and so that mother's womb, and that mother gave birth to us. Might have been the worst mother in the world, might have been the best mother in the world, I don't know. But you still got this life as a result of that womb and that pregnancy. So, look, we just expand. So even tonight, when we do this meditation, we're going to make it very simple. What I would like you to do is to think, when we're doing the meditation, think about how many living beings made it possible for you to come here tonight. From when you left home. I just want you to think, I left home tonight. Most of you came here by car, okay? Some of you, Ingrid walked across the corridor because she lives there. So, but anyhow, so you probably left the family. You probably left your cat. You probably left your family. Probably wanted you to stay at home. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they were glad to see the end of you. Who knows? But they were involved with you. They interacted with you and allowed you to come. Your car. How did you get your car? How did you turn your car on? How did it work? Where did the petrol come from? Where did the service come from? Where did the leather in the seats come from? They came from an animal who died. Where the petrol came from? It came from the ground and then caused pollution, which is damaging things. But all the people, the poor overseas student who filled up your petrol tank at 11 o'clock at night because he has to get a job and stuff like that. So and then come in here, and then you walked in the door, there was someone there, then you walked in here, and you get me, and bad luck. But you've sort of, that's okay, but still, we can only try our best. And then with the other people here, this would not be here without all you. We're dependent on each other. This wouldn't be here without you. We wouldn't be here if you weren't here. So dependent on the kind, you all got off your ass and you came here tonight. Thank you. Because of that, you made this. If you hadn't, this wouldn't be made. So we're all dependent on the kindness. And when we look at it, there is so much more kindness. When we stop listening to the news, when we stop listening to the negative chatter, our experience is filled with kindness. Our experience is filled with kindness and the sacrifice of living beings. So we meditate on that. And just make it really simple. Tonight, from the time when you'd left to the time, even when you drove down the road and somebody stopped at a stop sign and you went through, that person's kind. They could have been on speed and drunk, gone through the stop sign and hit you. But they didn't. So the kindness, they stop at a red light. Every time you see somebody stop at a red light, you think of their kindness. They have to stop at the red light. But if they don't, then there's disaster. So the kindness is everywhere. Kindness is everywhere. So meditate on the kindness. And at that, then we generate love. Having meditated on the kindness, we then generate gratitude, and then we generate love. Now the next step, if we want to do this, if we wanted to do this, if we had time, no, we got time. Okay, the next step is a little bit tricky. This is part of the very profound teachings of exchanging self for others. Now, we are going to then transform ourselves and our being into whatever living beings require. This is a very profound teaching. Okay, it's called exchanging self for others. Now, what we're going to do is imagine that your body transforms into a wish-fulfilling body, and then we emanate from our being whatever living beings require. So in Ukraine they require safety, so we give them water, shelter, safety. To animals that need protected, we give them protection. To people who are hungry, we give food. To people who lack shelter, we give shelter. People lack medicine, we transform our own being and give that to all living beings. This is a very profound practice. So it's not beginner stuff, it's not Monday night stuff, but you get a chance to just understand the profundity of what we have in Buddhism. And this is love at its most profound. Yeah, we'll give it a go, see what happens. I could take about 10 minutes. It can be 4 steps. Equalize yourself for others, think of the great kindness of all, develop love by gratitude, think of gratitude and then develop love, the wish for every living being to be happy. And then we transform our body into a wish-fulfilling body, and that emanates whatever living beings require and fulfill all their needs. That is love. That's the experience of love. Okay, we'll do this for 10 minutes, then we'll have some questions afterwards. It's a little bit confusing, a bit too much, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, just become calm, make the mind very stable. So we're doing the meditation on developing love, to stabilize the mind. Now meditate that all living beings are equal. We're all the same in wanting happiness and avoiding suffering. Just feel that deep sense of conviction. Do that for about 3 or 4 minutes. Now the next step in the meditation is to meditate on how every happiness we've had is dependent on others. Every happiness we have is dependent on others. And just think just of tonight only, from when you left this house to when you got here, to when you're sitting here, then when you go home, how every happiness comes from the endeavour, work, sacrifice of others. Just think of the kindness of living beings. Now, from having thought about the great kindness of all, develop gratitude, a sincere, deep gratitude. And from this, develop the mind of love, which is the wish that all living beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. The wish that all living beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. Just meditate on that, the mind of love, and stabilize it. Now finally, the final step is the actualization of love in terms of action. We imagine our body being a wish-fulfilling body, and from it emanates all the needs of living beings. For those in protection, we give protection. For those needing food, we transform our body into food. For those needing wealth, we transform our body into wealth. For those needing clothing, we transform our body into clothing. For those who have bombs raining down upon them, we transform those bombs into flowers, so they have no fear. Okay, well, remembering this mind of love, we can just cease the meditation and come back to the room. Okay, I quit now. It's your turn to do something. Some questions or comments, or I mean, you don't have to agree with anything I said. I would love it if you disagree. Please, yeah, that would be perfect. But yeah, any comments, suggestions? Hello.
I think it felt like, especially like going through all of those steps, the very last one, I felt very released.
Oh, good.
It was, yeah, it was like you said at the start, like it's just this, my nature is to grab and to take and to want, and
Good. You get a gold star. No, I think so. In terms of, I think you said the word, you said during this meditation and the final step in developing love, and then that giving, what we call giving, it's like a release. I think it's very good, yeah. So instead of wanting somebody to give to you, you become the giver. You become the giver. Yeah. It's good. In actuality, this meditation is a path to attaining the state of Buddha, because what we are doing is actually now actualizing some of the qualities of the Buddha. So we're taking what we call the results into the path, because that meditation is actually what the Buddha does, and the Buddha manifests whatever is needed for living beings from their own continuum. So it's actually, if we continue on this path doing this meditation, then we're actually developing the exact same qualities of a Buddha. So it's pretty profound. It's not, this is laying the seeds. But by doing this meditation, we're laying the seeds to become a Buddha. Because Buddha's not just some old Indian bloke, 2,500 years ago. I mean, Buddha's a state of, there are contemporary Buddhists, there are female, male Buddhas. I mean, it's a state of mind, it's a state of actualization. It's actually said that all of us will attain a state of Buddhahood at some stage. So we will all be able to actually do this, actually transform our actions and to fulfill the needs of living being in every way they require. So it's the start. So we start by thought. And that leads to result, because all results come from intention. So if we start with an intention, then we can build on that until it actually becomes action, and then with action can come, and if our actions are skillful enough, then there'll be results. So, but it all starts with thought, which is like the intention. If we never have the intention, then we will never get that result, unless it's a total fluke. I mean, like winning Tats Lotto, that you might think, I'll just pick 6 numbers and I'll become a Buddha. And if I get all 6 numbers like this, no, it doesn't work like that. It's not. I mean, yeah, you might get 6 numbers and you might get a whole lot of money, but no, you can't do that with Buddhahood. You have to have the intention and have to develop these qualities. And this exact quality of love is what's called the nascent quality of the Buddha nature that we all have. If we develop this love and do this meditation, then that is the path to sort of Buddhahood. That's my understanding of it anyhow. Hello? Yep, hi.
Yes, I'm trying to understand why there's always wars when the Buddhas and all the wonderful people praying. It doesn't seem to change the terrible thoughts of those in power who want creative.
Oh, okay, yeah, so maybe I can clarify. Despite our wonderful intentions, word, and the wonderful sort of words of Buddha, it doesn't change the actions and thoughts and words of those in power. Is that what you said? Something like that?
Yes, because I'm thinking of Ukraine.
Yeah, thinking of Ukraine and what's happening there. Yeah. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I've been very lucky to have spent a lot of time with the Dalai Lama closely. I was once with the Dalai Lama when he met with a whole lot of Australian politicians and their wives, or their partners, spouses, or whatever. They were in a room together for a fair bit of time, talking about things. When they came out, one of the wives said to her husband, and she was crying, "Why aren't you kinder to each other?" So her husband was a very senior politician, and then his wife said to her, and she was crying at the time, "Why aren't you kinder to each other?" This was after coming out and being with the Dalai Lama for a while. And I think probably the Dalai Lama was saying to them, "Look, you should be kinder to each other." Probably. I mean, I wasn't in the room, but I mean, probably that's what he said. If you want to get things done in a society, you need to cooperate and treat people with respect and be kind, show human kindness. So I suppose that sort of brought home to me that, yeah, they should be kinder to each other. Politicians should be kinder. It should start there, and then it would evolve into directions. But on the other hand, I've once again been lucky to meet many politicians, and I think they generally, in Australia, they do have good intentions. I think they do have good intentions. I think Australian politicians have good intentions. I don't think that's in some other countries in the world. When you mentioned Ukraine, I don't think Russia, it's very good. Although that politician who nearly died after being poisoned, I mean, he's a politician and he was poisoned in Russia, so he was a very brave man. I can't remember his name. What was his name? Alex Navalny. Alex Navalny. I mean, what a hero. What an incredible politician and he's going to die. He'll probably die in a Russian prison. He's almost nearly died. He'll probably die. So there are wonderful politicians around, but it's said that we're in a state of the 5 degenerations in our world system. The degeneration of time, beings, views, actions, and environment, etc. And because of that, virtue is becoming rarer, and the correct view is becoming rarer. The correct understanding of reality is becoming rarer, and wrong views and wrong actions are becoming more predominant. So what does that mean? Does that mean we should throw in the towel? No, it doesn't. It means that, a bunch of people like us in this room, just normal sort of people getting together, it's so rare, so precious and so powerful. Maybe we can change the world, maybe we can change our politicians, maybe we can change the world. And we begin by doing a meditation which transforms our attitude. So by generating love, as opposed to just wanting love. So instead of wanting and needing, we give love. And that's the start of it, yeah. I mean, that's my best guess. I have nothing else. Oh yeah, hi, yeah.
It's a bit along the same lines. I'm thinking so conflicted, about wish for happiness, and the cause of happiness, free from suffering, and for Ukraine just highlights it to a cross section from baby to all at one time.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make sense. You go, in a past life, and this is karma, but it doesn't make sense. To me,
Okay. So
I get the positive side, but the negative side I can't make sense of.
So is your sort of comment that the suffering in Ukraine, where little babies are suffering, and women, innocent people, they're all suffering. So how could that be? Is that sort of where you're coming from? How could it be? Yeah, it's a very good question. Yeah. So we, in terms of Buddhist philosophy, we believe in karma. We believe in karma actions and stuff like that, and we believe in previous lives, and we believe in future lives, and we believe in all sorts of things. So I suppose that gives us the out. I mean, some people say it's God's will. If you're a devout person who believes in God, and I was brought up a Catholic, for example, then it's God's will. It's God's will. And some people get a lot of sustenance out of that. And I've known many people who have endured incredible tragedies in their life by just having a firm faith that it was God's will that these tragedies befell me, and God gave me these tragedies because God knew that I had the strength to carry those tragedies. But that doesn't work for everybody. Karma doesn't work for everybody. Some people believe there's no karma, there's no cause, there's no result, there's nothing, everything's just random. Just like the Tats Lotto balls falling out on Saturday night. So, and that's what you get. So people have different views. I think you have to make your own decision, and you have to decide why. Why does a little baby die in a apartment block that collapses on it after a Russian tank destroys it? But that occurred in Afghanistan, that occurred in Kampuchea, it occurred in every country in the world, hasn't it? So little babies get crushed in falling buildings. So it's awful, isn't it? It's sad. You make your own decisions. Well, all Buddhists have got is an attitude, a view. If it doesn't suit you, find something else that works. But karma, it makes sense. Karma's good. More logical than other things. Now we're going to finish. We've gone a little bit over time. Don't go in over time because people get restless. Now Cynthia is here, and she would like to. Oh, and by the way, I won't be here next week. I'm leading a retreat at our sister centre up in Bendigo, so I won't be here. But Jeremy Cohen will be sort of continued. But I'll be here the one after. See you then. Bye. So normally we have a cup of tea up there, but we can't. So if anyone wants to come up and talk to me, I'll just sit here and we can chat about stuff if you want. But otherwise, hopefully we'll see you next week. Okay, bye-bye. Be safe. Ta-ta.